Welcome to Boomer Bongo Boulevard, the mysterious Boomer Bongo Boulevard tonight because I'm Mike Just Mike and Ron Just Ron along with me. We're going to be talking about dark shadows, and you can see Ron's dark shadows effect as we speak. Don't forget
Almost
to
as
hit that.
bad as their special effects were back then.
Yeah. Don't forget to hit the subscribe
There's
button. We're
Boom
up to,
Mike.
yeah. Aren't we up to 40, 44? We up to 44 subscribers, something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
Hey, and
Hang
there's
on, we'll
somebody.
cut the light on real quick. Just let me dive out of the picture. Oh, okay, here I'm back.
Okay. Hey, by the way, Ron, the Monkey Men. There's somebody who had a comment on the Monkey Men
Mhm.
long form that we've got. The interview we did with those guys a couple of weeks ago. And by the
Yeah.
way, if you haven't seen that, folks, go over and see it. It's interesting to me, and I've watched it a
Yeah.
couple of times and or rewatched it just to kind of pick it apart from my end. But anyway, somebody made a comment. I can't get on there to. Well, I can, but I
Yeah.
don't. I'll reveal my identity, which like it's a big secret.
Yeah,
But
really.
but you can do the official answer, and
Yeah.
he had a question about the Mickey's drum kit. I think. Boy, that Mickey's drum kit turned out to be a very big topic for us.
Yeah, it was.
But going back to Dark Shadows, we're going to talk about Dark Shadows tonight. That monsterific soap opera from back in the 60s. It ran from 1966. I didn't realize it was on that far back, but then I started thinking about who was watching it with us to 1971.
Yeah.
And so 5 years, and I didn't remember it running that long, but I don't think I watched it the whole 5 years. I think I watched about three in the middle
Yeah.
there. And I watched like everybody else, Ron. Dark Shadows, by the way. The ABC soap opera became a big surprise hit for ABC, as we said, back really about 1967. It was on for a year and boiled around, and then things really hit their stride when Jonathan Frid entered the fray 10 months after the show premiered as Barnabas Collins, the tortured. Is there any other kind of vampire but a tortured vampire? I guess there are
Yeah.
vampires that occasionally revel in being vampires, but many of them are tortured, and Barnabas certainly was. Angelique.
Well,
Right.
that actually came about because of Dan Curtis, the guy who created the show.
Yeah.
Because of his daughter. Because basically he was just kind of just throwing stuff at the wall and see what would stick. He's going, oh, I'll try some ghosts. I'll try this, and his daughter said, "Son, why don't you try a vampire?" And they were like, "Oh, okay." They're about to cancel us anyway, so
Yeah, they were under the gun.
yeah.
That first year, the ratings were way worse than
Yeah.
the network could handle, and they put him on notice. Hey, you don't turn things around quick, and boom, Barnabas Collins, and then it went off the charts. They were hitting around 9 million viewers per episode for a while there. And
one of the original what do you call anti-heroes, which are so big now.
Oh yeah,
and everybody kind of forgets about Barnabas. They talk about whenever everybody goes back to Anna Rice. And, hey, sorry, Anna Rice. If you look at her stuff and you look at Dark Shadows, man, that was kind of lifted.
Well, come on, all vampire stories are lifted. I mean, the original Dracula,
the really dehumanizing them part, because nobody really done that before.
By the way, hey, just to run through some of the actors, Jonathan Frid. Gosh, doesn't everybody around our age? That's a boomer person.
Oh, absolutely.
He's a superstar to boomers. Of course, he's the late Jonathan Frid. But several of these actors are still around. Laura Parker, who played Angelique, is still very active and doing all kinds of things. Catherine Lee Scott played Josette,
yes,
Barnabas's love, and his lost love. And Maggie Evans, she played both roles: Maggie in the present and Josette in the past.
Yep.
And Nancy Barrett played Carolyn Stoddard, and Grayson Hall played Julia Hoffman. David Selby, who is another actor who did well after Dark Shadows, and still is involved with different projects. And he kind of took the pressure off Jonathan Frid too late in the series because Selby was kind of the a heartthrob. I don't know if Jonathan Frid ever really considered a heartthrob, or
No, I wouldn't think so. No.
he was a little older and but he was. I'm sure there were
And they
women
always
viewers
had
of a certain age.
inexplicably headed. I never could understand the oily hair stuck to his head in those weird curl. I don't get that.
Johnny Depp had a lot of fun with it, though.
Yeah.
He extended them about another inch and a half, and
Yeah.
they were flying into his eyebrows when he did his take on
Yeah.
Barnabas Collins in the 2012 Dark Shadows movie.
Yeah. I just didn't like that movie. It didn't. It didn't get Dark Shadows at
No,
all.
no, it's kind of like watching the
It didn't
early.
get it. You know.
It's like watching the early superhero movies where they were like, "Oh, comic book. Well, we'll make it really stupid."
Yeah.
And
Yeah. You can't make fun of it because that doesn't work.
no, doesn't with me.
Yeah, it didn't with anybody that cared anything about it. You know, I just saw it and I was like, this is awful. You
Well,
know,
when you think about Dark Shadows, what do you think about?
the first thing I hear in my head is the Josette theme, which was Josette's music box.
Oh, sure.
Ding, 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 ding.
Well,
You know.
I thought you were going to say just the theme music that I can't even whistle right now, but that
And the
yeah.
dark shadows coming in all wavy,
Well,
and
and you
the waves
remember,
crashing, Widow's
I,
Hill.
you remember a lot. Most episodes started with a voiceover,
Yeah.
which I thought was a great touch.
At the old house.
Colin Wood.
Barnabas is waiting for Josette.
Uh, the first year, the first 10 months before Barnabas showed up, um, Victoria Winters, the who kind of made everything roll. She was the governess who had been brought in, so the outsider who really appreciated how weird and strange the whole setup was there. That she started the voiceover. She started the narration at the beginning for the first year by saying, "My name is Victoria Winters," and then she would go on and preview, do whatever they wanted to do with the little voiceover that particular day. But I think of that voiceover. There were a lot of good touches in that. And
Absolutely.
and how easy was it to recruit actors to be on Dark Shadows when you just walk up to them and you say, "Hey, look, we've got some scenery here. We've got about 40 acres of scenery, and you get to chew all of it up. You can just chew it up. You can yell things like Angelique and Barnabas, damn you," and things like that. Trask, it's Trask. You just go, everything was so over the top, but man, that was fun when you're 14 or 12 or 11 and watching it at home, and maybe your folks aren't home yet, and the house is empty, and there's vampires and werewolves and witches. By the way,
You know,
Angelique,
I'll go
the
back
witch.
to this day and I will look up on YouTube. I'll do it every once in a while and I'll watch the part where Barnabas seals up Trask in the wall, man. I mean, that was wicked. I mean, talk about when he takes his revenge, boy. It wakes him up and he's
Well,
chained and Barnabas says, hey, all the break up until it's right about there.
you know, when
Barnabas is just like taunting him and putting bricks.
when it happened, and I was just a kid, but I loved the connection to Edgar Allan Poe and the cask of Amontillado and the bricking up that took place in that story. And that was what I loved. Was Dark Shadows was pretty literate. Most soap operas don't make any effort to be literate. Dark Shadows was always leaning that way. And kids got it. Boy, it was a huge hit with teenagers, too, because of where it came on right after school.
Yep.
And you could run home. And
Now,
do you
see, I was
remember?
a little too young for I remember it coming on, you know, because, I mean, it ended 71, and, you know, I was like 6, and I remember seeing it on, but didn't really get into it. But I got into it later when I was in junior high, and they started rerunning it somewhere. I forget the cable channel, but it was coming on right after school.
Oh, sure.
And it would come on every day, and I watched it every day for
Do
like
you?
about a year or so. I watched all of the 1795, which is my favorite storyline. I think that's everybody's favorite.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
The Barnabas, Josette, Angelique storyline.
Josette.
And of course, Angelique's
Angelique. I just
her little
gotta
giggle,
do that. Oh sure, got to have that witch's giggle, cackle,
Yeah.
laugh. You don't see her a lot of times, but you'll hear the laugh.
Yeah.
Do you remember? Now this is
no.
Hey, do you remember Barnabas and his ring on his forefinger?
I was gonna say, man, I loved the ring. I used to want like a ring with that little onyx and wore it on his first finger, which was so weird and cool.
Pointing
too.
finger. Oh sure, but it
I
looked
guess so
great.
he could do like that.
Yeah, well, it looked great on with his cane. You could see it. You
had
didn't have
his
to look
wolf's
for it.
head cane. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember this person. Don't scream out a last name if it hits you.
Okay.
But we had a neighbor that was really into Dark Shadows. Barbara, do you remember Barbara, our sister's little friend? And she would come to our house almost every day to watch it because she was too afraid
to watch it by
herself at her house because she had a little gap between the time she got home on the school bus and when her parents got home. It wasn't much, about 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And she had older brothers that were usually there, but I guess they were out in the yard and doing things and throwing footballs. And she would, good. I thought you'd remember that. She'd come over to the house almost every day and watch Dark Shadows. I don't even remember how long that lasted, but that just shows you. And aren't you the perfect age to be frightened when you're between what 10 and 13? Wouldn't you say?
Yeah. And here's something that people don't think about anymore. I was thinking about this the other day while I was thinking about the show and just soap operas in general, because this isn't really a thing anymore. I don't believe. But the thing about soap operas is they would always jerk you around and jerk you around and jerk you around because they were waiting for sweeps weeks. There were certain weeks where they got higher, like double the ratings. And I mean, boy, everything would happen in that 1 week.
Yeah. Better not doze off during that week or
everything they'd been jerking and dragging and everything would come to it. All the little threads would come together and boom in that 1 week. And they would do it like about 3 times a year.
Yeah. Well, I remember May especially was a sweet.
Yeah, it would always be one during the summer when we were home from school. And it would be like, sometime we're like in November, They usually had it coincide with like when kids were home, students were home for like different breaks and stuff. I'm sure, that was a plan by TV execs,
The Dark Shadows, a lot of soap operas ran for 20 or 30 years, and Dark Shadows seemed like it had that kind of momentum, but we were talking before we...
2,145 episodes, I think.
1,225 episodes.
Oh, okay. That's a lot. That's a lot of shows. You could watch that for a long time, man.
You could, but
binge.
We were talking, about how it kind of faded out. They had this dual time thing going on. They went back into the past and showed what was going on with Barnabas back in the past and how he got turned into a vampire and all the backstory with Angelique and Josette and all that. And then that story ended, that arc ended, and the ratings fell. They were low at the beginning. Then Barnabas brought them up for a couple, 2 or 3 years, and then they fell off again. And we were talking about they had 2 movies that were associated. One was released while Dark Shadows was still on, House of Dark Shadows and Night of Dark Shadows. And the movie, the first one especially, House of Dark Shadows, was so bloody that parents who went to see it with their kids were horrified, and they didn't want their kids to watch the show anymore. So there was a big movement by parents to a lot of parents, hey, don't let your kids watch this. It's too bloody. Of course, the series wasn't bloody at all, the TV series. Do you ever remember any blood at all?
No, not really at all.
I mean, it was...
when you said something about the movies, you got me thinking about something that kind of rekindled my love of Dark Shadows was, and I don't know if you've ever watched this, and you can find these easily, but they did a reboot in 1991,
Right. We saw
and
that.
it was great.
Yeah.
You know, I had Ben Cross from Chariots of Fire fame, and
Yep.
I even had a young Jay Gordon-Levitt.
But
Jay
it just
Gordon-Levitt, but it was on
people
Third
just,
Rock, and a lot of stuff
I think it
now.
would be much more popular now because it would be probably on Cinemax or
Yeah.
or
But the
one of
Gulf War
the
killed it,
streaming
because
services.
everybody was covering the first Gulf War, and they were going 2 or 3 weeks without being able to show an episode, and they
Right.
had some momentum for the first 3 or 4 episodes, and then it
Right.
just killed it.
Just disappeared, just kind of faded out, really.
Yeah, yeah,
And
they lost all their momentum because their first 3 or 4 episodes were really highly rated, and then
yeah,
it just
yeah.
everybody kind of forgot about it because, I mean, that happens.
Somebody you mentioned Dan Curtis, who was the producer, the
Hmm.
person behind Dark Shadows, the
Yeah.
creation of Dark Shadows, and it's really interesting reading about it. I just spent an afternoon reading some
Hmm.
things, but he also produced the original Night Stalker movie that turned into Kolchak the Night Stalker,
Oh yeah, that's
which was
right. He did.
he was
That's coming back to, because I've read a lot about him too, just not a lot recently.
well, that doesn't that make him the king of the cult TV series or horror TV?
Really?
But he's two of them. Two of
Yeah.
them. I don't think he was associated with the series, but he did the movie, which
Yeah.
you can still find around if you look, get on YouTube or search around from time. And but that was a really scary show. And Darren McGavin, man.
Yes, the show made him famous.
Oh yeah. And everybody already knew his face, but
Yeah.
people learned his name if they didn't know it already.
Hmm.
I don't want to leave out Joan Bennett, who played Elizabeth Collins. She was the
Hmm.
matriarch of the family.
Yeah.
Every time you got a mansion, don't you have to have a matriarch of
Well,
any
always.
old? And she played that role. Um, and I found out something else that's kind of interesting. Victoria Winters, one of the major female characters. Boy, this was despite the Barnabas Collins character. There were a lot of females that had
Hmm.
strong roles in Dark Shadows. But Jacqueline Smith of Charlie's Angels was offered the role of Victoria Winters after uh, Alexandra Moltke, the original actress who played the
Hmm.
role, stepped away after a couple of years. And she was married to Roger Davis, one of the male actors on the show, and she got offered the role, but she turned it down for whatever. Maybe she didn't think she looked good with a little stream of blood running down her neck. I don't know, but but I thought that was interesting. I mean, there were there were some, and how could you turn down a chance to go Barnabas? Oh, I guess you would go Barnabas.
But she later was on the show as another character, as far as I know,
Oh,
or she was in one of the movies.
oh yeah, like I think she was. I think she was involved, but
Yeah.
not. But Victoria Winters, that was a
Oh, no, she
major.
wasn't Victoria Winters.
That was
No.
a major. My name is Victoria Winters. I mean, come on,
Yeah,
that's
I think she did some stuff more later on when, like, David Selby was on
yeah,
was
yeah.
on there more.
Hey, have we talked about Trask yet? Played by Jerry Lacey. That was Barnabas's enemy in the past. We
Yeah,
talked about breaking him up, I
comes
guess.
breaking him up. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, he was evil, evil, evil.
Witch.
Oh, oh my gosh. And you got the echoes of the Salem witch trials and all that stuff. And of course, it took place in the fictional city of Collinsport, and the mansion that everything revolved around was Collinwood. And,
Yeah. And they had the old house and the new house.
right. The new house was what, 150 years old. The old house
Yeah.
was
Oh,
300
it's
years
fun.
old.
Yeah,
Or something.
300 years old. Yeah.
Yeah. That's like Europe. The
Yeah.
new church down the street is 700 years old. That's Trask. I don't know. Well, you mentioned, something I found out that I had no inkling of, and I've got to get the right terminology here. And somebody who is really heavily involved in this, or is and we've already mentioned her before, Laura Parker
Hmm.
was involved in an audio version of Dark Shadows, an audio production of Dark
Yeah.
Shadows, and these were done. There were looked like 30 or 40 or 50 of them. I was
Yeah.
going in the list, and some were done as late as maybe 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And there's even talk they may do some more. I don't know where you would find these, but I
Yeah.
bet
I don't either.
a night
Something to
sitting
look
on
for,
the
you know.
oh, you could find it. Knock around the internet, and you could
Yeah.
probably find some of the older ones at least.
Mm-hmm.
And but it's anyway. It's called Audio Productions, Dark Shadows, and I noticed just
Oh,
glancing
there's been
down, they even
tons
had
of comic books, and I'm sure
oh,
pulp,
uh,
paperbacks and all kind of stuff.
there was a real following, and still is a real nostalgic
Mm-hmm.
following for Dark Shadows, and that's right up our alley here
Yeah.
on Boomer Bongo Boulevard. Um, Any other comments you got on Dark Shadows? But I'm thinking I might go out and watch an old episode here after we're
I
done.
will watch an old one every once in a while. And I usually go and and I'll look up. I'll get online and go like, what number episode was it where Josette jumped off Widow's Hill? And
Oh
I'll
yeah,
go and I'll find that one and I'll watch that whole one, or
yeah, yeah.
the one where Barnabas bricked up Trask. I'll find that one, and
Well, let's see.
I
And
just don't have the
Angelique
patience
is
to watch 350
right.
episodes.
Oh, and did Angelique? She made Barnabas a vampire. She put a curse on him, right?
Yes, she put a curse on him because, let's see, she put a spell on him to make him fall in love with her. And then
Oh,
because he was supposed to marry Josette, she was coming over to, marry him.
right, right.
She put a spell on Barnabas's brother, Jeremiah, and Josette. So Josette would fall in love with Jeremiah, and she ran off and married Jeremiah. And Barnabas got angry, and he found out that Angelique was a witch, and then he goes and has a duel with his brother, and he was gonna not put anything in his gun and not kill his brother and just let his brother win. And
Man, I
Angelique
love these
switched
soap
it up
operas.
where Barnabas killed him, of course, to torture Barnabas. Not only did she turn him into a vampire, she made him murder his damn brother.
Isn't that? Don't you love these soap? That was a show that it was about vampires and werewolves and witches, but they understood they were a soap opera. They
Yeah,
they always had plots that it took you half an hour to explain.
yeah,
And every character had the
exactly.
motivation.
It was some
Oh yeah.
convoluted
Hey,
stuff,
somebody
man.
we didn't mention or I didn't mention is John Carlin, who played. Do you know the role he played? Huge
Uh,
role.
but what?
John Carlin. What role did he play? We're doing trivia here.
Was that Ben Parker? Not Ben
No,
Parker,
no.
but Ben something.
No,
The
he
guy that was
played Will.
Barnabas' servant, was that him?
Yes, Willie
Yeah.
Loomis. Willie
Willie
Loomis.
Loomis, yeah. Yeah.
Willie Loomis was his, and that guy was a scene stealer, big
Yeah.
time. Every.
I
Uh,
don't know, Barnabas.
oh, hey, any
I don't
movie you
know,
ever
Mr.
saw.
Barnabas.
but Barnabas, don't hit me, Barnabas. And Barnabas was so polite, and then he would just
Miss
lose his
Josette, you don't
mind.
want to do that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Barnabas loses his mind over Willie. Willie,
Willie
get
had a
over here.
conscience, man, but he was just so stupid.
Great.
He had a good
I love
heart.
those
He was a
servants.
dummy.
That's the role I would want, is being the servant to the vampire, the guy that closes his. Because how do you even get your head around that? I mean, you always watch those movies and you watch Dark and you think, what a loser. What
Yeah.
a loser. The guy's hanging around vampires. I mean, give me a break. Anybody else would jump in their car and fill it up with gas and drive as far away as they could the minute
Well,
that
he wasn't really
coffin lid
trying to
closed.
hang around vampires. You gotta cut him a little slack. He was just gonna try to open up a casket and steal a little bit of jewelry, and
Yeah. But
he
come
opened one
on.
up and Barnabas was in there, baby. And he
Willie
turned
Lou.
him into his slave.
Oh yeah. I guess the vampires did have powers. They had to
Yeah.
have somebody to help open the coffin sometimes. Those things pretty heavy lids. Hey, you got a song of the week?
No, not really. Just that the
Listen.
only song I always think of is, like I said, the Josette's theme, which you can play on YouTube, and I'll play that and listen to that every once in a while too. It's pretty good.
Well,
Some
I
little
looked up this.
minuet,
Yeah, sure.
music box
I looked
minuet.
I looked up the soundtrack of this doesn't really have anything to do with Dark Shadows, other than I looked up the soundtrack for Dark Shadows, and it was all original stuff. It had a
Yep.
soundtrack and had
Mhm.
the tracks listed, and one of them was "Burn Baby Burn," and it immediately made me think of a great song that
Mhm.
from the 70s. Actually, what year?
Yeah.
1976, Saturday Night Fever soundtrack,
Yeah.
the Disco Inferno by the
Yeah.
Tramps, and one of the great R&B vocals ever, and just one of the great fun disco songs ever. And so that's my song of the week. If you haven't listened to that in a while, get your dancing shoes on, because it will make you jump. Disco Inferno by the Tramps, but "Burn Baby Burn," which was associated with the Dark Shadows movie soundtrack, but they
Well,
didn't. It
speaking
wasn't
of the
that song; it
Joe
was
Zack
another
thing,
song. Yeah,
that's
well,
something that
yeah,
really
we
bothered me
associate.
about that Johnny Depp movie, because that showed me that they didn't get the show at all. Because if you didn't have Josette's music box, you didn't understand Dark Shadows at
Didn't get
all.
it. No,
You
that's
didn't
right.
get it. You
That's
didn't know
right.
anything about it. If you didn't have Josette's music box playing. I mean, come
Well,
on. That
you,
was
you
such a
if
central part of everything.
if you're gonna do it, basically, a revival to me is a tribute to the older
Hmm.
show that you're reviving. And like we were talking once again to the Monkey Men a few weeks ago, and those guys had got the idea. They're like, "Hey,
Hmm.
we want to get the costuming. We want to play the transition music. We want to
Hmm.
move like those guys do, and pay tribute to the earlier people." And the Johnny Depp movie just didn't really do it at all. They really stole the title and a couple of basic
They just did
ideas,
whatever they
and they
wanted,
did their
you
own
know.
thing. Yeah, and it just
Well,
it just
I was hoping for
you lose
something
them
at
when
least.
you do.
I figured they were going to do it comedic, but at least do it like they did the Brady Bunch. The Brady Bunch may be one of the best parodies of a TV show I've ever seen in my
Oh
life.
yeah,
The Brady Bunch movies.
everybody.
I mean, that they were funny. They were
Yep,
making fun of the show, but honoring the show at the same time.
right.
They
And the
did it
casting was great.
perfectly, you know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I need to go watch that again.
Oh yeah,
Marshall.
that's great, and that even has the monkeys in it. Of course, they had Davy Jones, and
Oh,
then
that's right.
they
That's
had the
right.
Brady Bunch winning a talent contest, and everybody's going like, "How did they win?" And it shows around, it shows the judges, and it's the monkeys.
Why wouldn't they win?
Yeah,
I'm going to have to go back and watch that soon. It's been a
yeah,
long time, and that is a great. Yeah, that's what a tribute slash parody is supposed to be. And hey, won't be the first. And I like Johnny Depp sometimes, but that is not even close to the first time he's missed the mark on a tribute character that he's doing. So he has his
yeah.
shortcomings, that's for sure. Any final words on Dark Shadows? I
No,
started to
it's
say
just
Dracula.
Joseph.
Angelique. Boomer Bongo Boulevard. We're done with Dark Shadows for tonight.